Today we're going to be testing if performance brake pads are actually worth it. And for this test, I brought a set of Carbotech XP8 performance brake pads. Now this is a more track-oriented brake pad. This isn't as strict as Carbotech gets. They get to the XP10, the XP12, and I think the XP20, which are much more track-oriented. The XP8 is meant to be a high-temperature, streetable track-oriented pad. You probably shouldn't have them on the street all the time, but they are definitely considered a high-performance brake pad. So today we're going to be conducting a bunch of different tests to determine if these are actually worth it and how well they do what they were intended to do. So because this is science and it's not me just being an idiot, we're going to need what's called a control group, or basically something to compare the new brake pads to. That is going to be the stopping power from 50 miles an hour of the stock brake pads on this 2014 Subaru BRZ. As you can see behind me, there's a lovely road that needs somebody to go braking their ABS system on it. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be putting down a piece of blue tape that says brake here, and this is going to be where I start braking. And from 50 miles an hour, the second that I reach that piece of tape, I'm going to hit the brakes as hard as I can, and I'm going to mark where the front wheel of the car comes to a stop. We will then change the brakes, get to our experimental group, which will be the Carbotech XP8 brake pads. We'll do the same thing over. We'll measure the both stopping distances, and we'll see if it decreased, increased, or did nothing at all. So with that being said, let's get to it. I'm going to go mark down our brake here line, and we're going to go down this road at 50 miles an hour and see what the stock brakes can do. All right, so we have this long stretch of road here, car right there, and then I've made the brake here line in blue painter's tape right here. This is quite the scientific process. We're going to be coming down this road in this direction at 50 miles an hour. The minute that we hit this, we're going to be slamming on the brakes, coming to a stop there. I'm going to put another piece of tape down where the stock brakes end up. We'll take our tape measure, measure the distance between them, and then we will know how fast the car stops. Now for both cases, we're going to be putting the car in neutral and just slamming on the brakes. All right, here we go. We are making our illegal U-turn to set up for 50 miles an hour. All right, let's do it. Gotta get up to 50. Takes 3 business days in this car. All right, we're there. Put it in neutral. Okay, there it is. Let's go mark it. All right, so there we have our stock brake line. The brake here line is right up the road, so now we're just going to measure the distance between them, and that'll tell us our result for the control group. All right, so the final result of the stock brakes from 50 miles an hour stopping distance with this car was 90.5 feet. Now I know factory is slightly over 100 for a stop from 60, so it makes sense that this would be a little bit less. These stock pads are also quite worn, so they might have a little bit lower performance than they should, but overall now we have a benchmark to compare to. 90.5 feet, if we can get any shorter than that, then the Carbotechs will be better stopping power, and we're also going to maybe look into the heating of them a little bit, and once they're hot, do they stop even shorter? Okay, so we're halfway through changing the brake pads on the car right now, and I'm just going to show a quick comparison between these two. So this is the stock pad on the left, and this is the Carbotech XP8 on the right. So if we look, like I said, my stock brakes were quite worn down. They're much thinner than these Carbotechs on the right, but the stock brakes look pretty similar overall. The pad material doesn't look too different. You know, the backs of these are painted silver, but that doesn't really mean anything. The only difference that I really kind of see is this wear indicator structure on the stock pad does not exist for the Carbotech pads, and I think that is because you are able to move it over to these pads if you want to. I just choose not to because I swap them out in between track days and whatnot. So overall, this pad just looks about the same. It's just a lot thicker because I've used it less, but the compound here is what is really going to make the difference. What this pad is made of is what's going to allow it to absorb more heat and hypothetically allow us to stop quicker. All right, we're back out here irritating everyone within a 20-mile radius. I got the Carbotech XP8s on the car. I just got done bedding them, so the pad has to actually deposit some material into the rotor before it is able to be used. So I just went around and did that, got them up to temperature, gave it hard braking a few times just to let that pad bed into the rotor. But now it's all done. We're back on this road and we're ready for the test. All right, here we go. We're going down to the Alright, so now it's time to test the Carbotech XP8s in the same exact situation. From 50 miles an hour, I'm going to throw it in the neutral and hit the brakes as hard as I can. And then we're going to mark, and we're going to measure the stopping distance. So we're getting right down to the end of the road now. I'm just going to make a U-turn here, and then we'll let it eat. We'll get on the brakes, and we'll see what they can do. Alright, here we go. All right, let's go measure it. Alright, so I just got done measuring it, and my very scientific process told me that we stopped 15 feet shorter, making it for a stopping distance of 75.5 feet from 50 miles an hour using the Carbotech XP8 brake pads. So that's about it for this test, and then we'll break down what the results mean in just a minute here. So in the end, what we discovered is that the Carbotech XP8 brake pads were able to stop the car 15 feet shorter than the stock brake pads from 50 miles an hour, which is actually a pretty significant gain. So if you're looking for just pure stopping power, performance brake pads will definitely do that for you. But note some downsides. They're going to have a lot of brake dust, they're going to wear your rotors more, they're going to squeal and make a lot of brake noise. So there's a lot of better things that you can upgrade for a street car to get braking performance. If you really care about your brakes a lot on a street car, which oftentimes they don't really matter too much, you're probably better off going with something like a big brake kit. But if you're looking for track usages or autocross usages or anything of those sorts, you're probably actually going to be pretty good with just performance brake pads and some racing brake fluids, such as some Motul RBF 660 or 600 or anything like that, so that your brake fluid does not boil. Brake pads will give you the stopping power of something like a big brake kit. Maybe not quite as good, but they will definitely increase your stopping power quite a bit. Additionally, they will reduce brake fade and allow your brakes to handle repeated braking and high temperatures that get, pretty much put into them through track use or anything like that. So if you're looking to just go to the track, then I would highly recommend just performance brake pads are probably going to be good enough for you. But if you're looking for an all-around solution and something that is street friendly, then you're probably going to want to go with a big brake kit. But if stopping power, once again, is your only thing, then I would say that for $400, performance brake pads are worth it, and the Carbotech XP8 has been a really good option for me. I use them for the track all the time. I've never encountered brake fade or any kind of issues with them on track. They do the job perfectly fine. So I would say this test pretty much concludes that they were worth it. Now, overall, this was a pretty basic test, and ultimately whether they are worth it or not is going to be up to you and your individual situation. But that's pretty much all that I can provide, is just knowing that they actually do increase your stopping power by quite a large margin. I would say 15 feet from 50 miles an hour is a pretty good difference. So that's pretty much all the information that I'm going to be able to provide you. And then from there, you're just going to have to make a choice if you're actually considering getting some, whether or not it is worth it for you. So that's going to pretty much wrap up this video. And if you have watched to the end and you enjoyed and you got something out of it, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be releasing plenty more videos like this in the future. That way you don't miss any, and it would help the channel out a lot. So anyways, thank you for watching and have a nice day.